Alright. Let's see if I can record. I don't have an SD card reader on that computer, so even if I can record, I can't guarantee that I can get it online. But I'm going to try. Alright, so if you look down here, this is a periodic function right here. And the length along the x-axis before the y values begin to repeat. Okay, so let's pick something. Like, let's pick where we have right here. And then again, it's at that same place right here. Well, how many spaces is that? What's that distance? 4. That's the period of this particular function. It's 4. And you could pick up here, from here to here. That's 1, 2, 3, 4. That's 4 units. From any point on this particular function to where that point happens again is going to be 4 units. Okay? And then there's the amplitude. Amplitude is basically the size of the graph. Yeah, okay. Alright. Amplitude is going to tell you pretty much how tall this graph is going to end up. And it's half the distance between the maximum and minimum values. Oops. Amplitude is half the distance between the maximum and minimum y values. So again, let's go back to this one. My maximum y value on this particular function is 3. My minimum value on this particular function is -3. So the amplitude would be 1/2 3 minus -3, half of 6. The amplitude would be 3.
Do what?
Maximum y value on this graph is 3. That's my max. My minimum y value on this graph is -3. The amplitude is half the distance between those.
Okay.
There's 6 units from here to here. Half of 6 is 3.
Do you want us to write it out like that?
Yeah, you should just write it.
No, she's right like that for no reason.
I think you should.
Because if we can tell it like that, it's 6, 3 to -3.
No,
But it won't always be like that.
that's what, yeah.
That's what I was saying. If it is like that, if we could write it just.
Show your work. Alright. The amount, the whole thing, from one place it starts to the next place it starts, okay? That's called a cycle. Alright, so is this function periodic?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Because the y values repeat for every 4 x values. What's the domain of this function?
-5, 5.
No, it's periodic, so it goes forever.
Oh.
So it's going to be -infinity to infinity. Now the range will be specific. What's the range for this function?
Negative 3, 3.
Yes, and that is with hard brackets. All right, how about this one? Is this one a periodic function?
Yes,
Okay, how do you know?
because you can see that it starts to repeat. Oh, you want the y value repeats for every x value.
How many?
4.
Try again.
Try again.
What? 6.
You gotta count the little.
Oh.
So you could start here. You could go from here to here. You could go from here to here. You could go from here to down here. It doesn't matter. Any way you go about it, it's 6. So what's the period of this function? 6. What's the domain?
Negative infinity.
Mm-hmm. What's the range? All right, that's going to help us get our amplitude, because 1/2 of 2 minus negative 2 is going to be half of 4. So my amplitude is 2. Alright, try this one. Try to answer that one. Is this a periodic function?
Yes.
Okay. It's periodic because the y values repeat. How many x values does this one take now?
3.
Exactly 3?
Yeah. Yes.
I don't think so. Because if you look, that one's exactly at 1. That one is not exactly at 3. That's not exact, right?
Yeah.
I mean, here,
3 point something.
3 point something. Okay, so let's put about 3 point what?
2.
Okay, so then my period of my function is about 3.2. What's the domain?
Negative infinity, infinity.
Mm-hmm. What's the range?
Negative 2, 4.
So 1/2 of 4 minus negative 2 is half of 6, which is 3. What about this one? Is that a periodic function?
No.
No.
Why not?
The y value.
Why does it sweet?
Well, they repeat, they don't form a pattern. A repeating pattern, I guess you could say, if you wanted to talk about repetition. Does this still have a domain?
Yes.
Yeah? What is it?
Negative infinity, 2 infinity.
Does it have a range?
Yes.
What's the range?
-4, 5.
Maybe. What if it keeps doing this? What if it keeps increasing?
Negative infinity.
Yeah, we're going to assume that it just keeps doing what it's doing.
Okay.
Now, as far as period and amplitude, it doesn't have one. Alright, we're not going to do this last one. Let's flip it over. Alright, so now I've got a table. So we just did periodic functions on a graph. Now I'm going to do periodic functions on a table. Okay? So it says the table of values, or the table shows values of one cycle of a periodic function called f of x. And f of x consists of straight line segments that connect consecutive points on the table. Okay, so look at the table. How do you know, according to the table, that this is one cycle of a continuous periodic function?
Because the y repeats at 4.
Right. Right here, we've started over. The y value repeats at 4, or repeats 4. All right, let's talk about question B. The period and the amplitude of f of x. Well, let's start with this one. How am I going to find out how long did it take to do whatever it is it's going to do? How can I find that out?
Take the two x values and add,
Add.
but make it an absolute value.
So make the whole thing absolute value or the absolute value of each?
The whole thing.
Right. If I want to know a distance away from each other, right? I just need to find the distance, which is subtraction, but it's going to turn into addition. I'm going to have 3 minus a negative 4, which is 7. So period is 7 because the distance between negative 4 and 3 is 7 units. About amplitude. I know it's 1/2, the max minus the min. So what's the max value?
4.
4. What's the minimum value?
Negative.
-2. We're looking, maximum and minimum are always y values. Yeah. So again, that's half of 6, and half of 6 is 3. So my amplitude is 3. Okay, now we have to sketch it all the way from -11 to 10. So, do I know what's happening at -11? Is that on my chart?
No.
You just start with negative 4.
Okay, so if I start at -4 and I go to 3, how does that help me do everything else?
You can figure out what you need to do.
Figure out the pattern.
Right, because how often does it repeat?
Every 7.
Every 7. Okay, so at -4, I'm at 4. And at 0, I'm at 2. And remember, it said that it's just connected with straight line segments. Boom. And at 1, I'm at -2. That's not a very straight line. That's better. And at 3, I'm at 4. Everybody got that much?
Yeah.
So how do I get the next point? Like I would like another point.
You have to go over 7.
Go over 7 from where? Any of them?
I want to say from the
But do all of these points have another one that's 7 units away?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, they all do. So you can just, I mean, it might get confusing. You could do them all at once and then connect, or you could say, okay, I just did the top one. Now I'm going to go to this middle one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And connect. Now I'm going to go down and do this one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And connect. And then I'm going to go back up to the top one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And I just had to go to 10, so that's my last one on this side. How am I going to get this direction, though?
Let's go back 7.
Just go back 7, yeah. So there's the top. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And I'm going to do it the other way this time. So all of these. How do I know what order these should go in?
From the previous pattern.
Yeah, and how do we graph? We always
Left
go
to right.
left to right. So I'd start here, and that's the next one that comes along, and then that one, and then that. So there you go. There's my pattern from -11 to 10. Okay. Has everybody got that? All right, so now Mr. Sparks is going to be smart aleck here. He's going to ask me 2 numbers that are not on my graph. Anybody have an idea how I can figure these out without having to graph to 15 or graph to -77?
At -11, the y value is 4, so 4 is going to be -77.
How do you know that?
-11 can go to -77.
-11 and -77.
7.
So
That's 66 between them, though. So that's not, it's not going to repeat. You're almost there, though. You're so close. It's not, it's the difference between the two. So, like, if I want f of 15. Okay, 15. These repeat every 7, right? So I'm actually going to do f of 15 minus 14. Because if it repeats every 7, I could skip every 7, every 7, every 7, and I'd be at the exact same place, right?
Yes.
Okay. So what's 15 minus 14?
1.
So f of 15 should line up with f of 1 because they're 14 spaces apart, right? So they're going to, that's one group of 7, that's another group of 7. All right, what's f of 1?
-2.
-2. Okay, f of -77 is going to line up with something that is a multiple of 7. What's the closest multiple of 7 to 77? 77, yeah. Look at that. So that's going to get me to f of 0. And what's f of 0? 2. Right. What number do you want to use for 64? 9's not going to get me there. And 9's not a multiple of 7.
63.
I think you're on the right path, but I don't think you're saying it exactly the right way. What?
63.
63. 9 times 7. Yeah. So 63 would get me f of 1, and we already saw that f of 1 is -2. What do you want to use for -25?
7 times 3. 21.
So -25 plus 21 is going to be f of -4. Is that on our chart?
No.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
It's 4.
It's 4.
It's our starting point also.
Oh, it's -4 because, okay.
Yes. Yes. Okay, so how do you use this period of the function to find the values?
What?
How do you use the period of the function to find the values? What are we doing? We know the period is 7. So what do?
Using multiples.
We use multiples of it. Yeah, and then we add or subtract. Yeah. So find the closest multiple. Alright, so find the closest multiple for the number that you're looking for. Add them or subtract, and use that answer to find f of x. Okay, so let me ask you, if the period of your function was 3, what multiples would you look for? Multiples of 3. If the period of your function was 19, you would look for multiples of 19. Okay? If the period of your function was 2/3, you would look for multiples of. That would be horrendous, by the way. That would be awful. It may happen in the future. I'm just saying.
This year?
It could happen. Maybe not this year. You're not dropping this class.
If we do that, if we get to that.
I don't want to, but if you give me fractions.
Right, if you give me fractions, let's try to draw the line. The fraction line. Alright. Okay, I'm trying to get to my homework. Okay, so the first page, the front page, page 111. What's the period of f of x?
4,
What's the period of g of x?
8,
Okay, so on f of x, you're going to use multiples of
4,
4, and on g of x, you're going to use multiples of
8.
8. Okay, so look at number 6. F of 21 is not on my graph, okay? But that's f. So I could look at that like 21 minus what? 20. Perfect, okay? G of 34 is not on my graph. So that would be like G of 34 minus 32. Exactly. Okay? You see how that's going to work? Yes, no, maybe? Maybe?
We'll see.
Okay. You're going to be in class for most of that, by the way. All right. And then look, you've got 2 functional analysis questions. You get a graph and a table. And look at the directions. Using your note packets from this unit, list as many facts as you possibly can about each function. So we're talking like domain, range, increasing, decreasing, constant. If it has zeros, if it's above the x-axis, if it's below the x-axis, when is it equal to 0? Everything and anything you can think of for these 2 things right here. You see all that space? There's a lot that you could think of. Okay? And let's just have a little gander. Today is day 14.
You'll have a freaking
Do we have a
test.
test tomorrow?
No. Tomorrow we review. Wednesday, test 2.
When are we going to get our
I'm about to
quizzes
say
back? Because I
this.
want to see what I
There's like 3 people who still have to take the quiz.
Oh,
How many?
I need to,
3.
is there a way I can like look and see what I need to study?
Mhm.
Okay. Because I don't know anything.
And let me just say, I follow the handbook on makeup. I follow the handbook. I think the handbook says that you have a day for your absence. So if you missed a day, you've got a day to make up the quiz. If you missed 2 days, you've got 2 days to make it up. If you missed 3, you have 3. After that, I'm done with it. I'm not chasing you down. I'm not finding you to tell you that you've got a quiz to make up. It goes an M in the grade book. An M averages in as a 0. And it will stay an M missing. You have to make up your quizzes. Some people have made them up and I just haven't got them graded yet. That's fine. That's not who I'm talking to. I've told you at the beginning of the year, if you take the test or the quiz on the day it was given, I will get that grade back to you the next day. And if not, you'll get it by report card time. Okay? But if you miss, you've got to get that made up when you get back as soon as possible. And I prefer it not be during class because then you're missing another class day to make up a test or a quiz. So find a study hall, come to tutoring, come before school, come after school, whatever. Get your stuff made up. Okay?
Nicole,
Careful.
Yes.
do you think you'll have